Hello again and welcome to Glass with a Class. I'm June Anderson and I'm glad you're here today to look at some candlesticks of the Depression era. This should be fun because there are so many shapes, colors, and styles. I don't have an extravagant number of them, but I'll show you a few of mine and then some in a special book that Jean Florence wrote that's just about candlesticks. Some of them are plain. Some are etched and some have a silver application. The descriptions just go on and on. Let's look at some of mine. You've seen this one before, but because it was my mother's and one of the very first pieces I got, I have to show it to you again. This is a pink atom from the GWAC Company, manufactured between 1932 and 1934, and stands about 4 inches high. I keep the pair that she gave me in our living room. Here is a pretty plain one. It's a pink block optic from the GWAC Company, made between 1929 and 1933. It's pretty plain, but it's really a sweet little candlestick. It's only about 1 3/4 inches tall. I have a pair of these that I keep on my mother-in-law's antique shelf in our family room, with tall white candles in them. Here's one that's very different. It's Windsor by the GWAC Company, made from 1936 to 1946. It's clear and stands about 3 inches tall. This one is the clear color that they called crystal. It's shaped sort of like a teepee, don't you think? I keep a pair of these in our living room. Here's a little amber one from the Federal Glass Company called Madrid, manufactured from 1932 to 1939. It stands about 2 1/4 inches tall. Here is a different style. This is a clear or crystal iris, also known as iris and herringbone, from the GWAC Company, made from 1928 to 1932. It's different because it has 2 arms, sometimes called branches or lights. You'll see them referred to as a 2-light candlestick. Some of these styles were made in the 1940s and maybe a little later, so you may not consider them to be true Depression glass styles. Here's a different one called Colonial Stars and Bars from Anchor Hocking Glass Company. It stands about 1 5/8 inches tall. They made this pattern for many years. Proof of that is that I have about a dozen of these, so they're pretty easy to come by. I've read that they made it from the 30s into the 60s. Now here are a couple of pictures from Jean Florence's book, Glass Candlesticks of the Depression Era, Volume 2, Identification and Value Guide, published in 2006. The first one is clear or crystal and is known as Queen Mary. It stands about 4 1/2 inches tall and was made by the Anchor Hocking Glass Company from 1936 to 1940. Tell me if I'm off here, but every time I see a picture of one of these candlesticks, it reminds me of a cactus. I thought you'd like to see a red one. So here's one from the Cambridge Glass Company, known only as pattern number 1192. The color is red, but they call the color carmine. It has a sterling silver overlay. Excuse me. This sort of looks green in the picture Mr. Florence had in his book. It stands about 6 inches tall. Well, you get the idea of how many different candlesticks there are and their loveliness. This is by far not an exhaustive list or description of all the candlesticks of the Depression era. You see why I and lots of others like to collect them. We'll set these aside and move into our class portion of Glass with a Class. Today we're looking at check-in and check-in. You see lots of signs telling you to check in here or to get into the check-in line. It can be confusing as to when to use the hyphenated version. If you can remember to use a hyphen when using check-in as an adjective, you've got it made. An adjective is a describing word for a noun. So check in here would be describing what kind of line you're getting into. It's a check-in line. Line is the noun, and check-in is the describing word. You may be at a hotel or a place where you're going to a conference or anywhere that you need to check in. Check in without the hyphen is used for what you're doing. Check in, the hyphenated version, is used to describe the type of line you're in. A check-in line. It doesn't only describe a line. You could be at a check-in point, a check-in station, at a check-in time. Your check-in time at a hotel may be 4 o'clock. And look at this, your check-out time may be at 11. At any rate, you're going there to check in or out. Check in is what you're doing. Check-in line is where you're standing to check in. It's pretty simple if you think about it. I don't have a sentence from the Bible using check-in or check-in, but I do have one with candlestick. Mark chapter 4, verse 21. And he said unto them, Is a candle brought to be put under a bushel or under a bed, and not to be set on the candlestick? Well, that's it for today. Join us next time when we'll look at another pretty depression glass pattern. God bless you and yours. See you next time.